So what happens whenever you take what everybody else is doing perfectly and put it into one product? You're going to get pretty damn near perfection. And that's exactly what the Glorious Model O is. Pretty close to perfection. The Final Mouse Air 58 was my daily driver whenever I ordered it back in January 15th, but ever since I saw the announcement for this mouse, immediate buy, and I have not regretted it ever since. The hype around this mouse was, and still is, the biggest thing ever. If you go to the subreddit mouse reviews, you're going to see 9s and 10s all over the place. But don't look too closely or else you'll start to see all the small problems that add up in this nearly perfect mouse. If you're going to be using one mouse for hours, you want it to be really comfortable. So what company do you look for the most comfortable shape? Zowie. And that's exactly what the Glorious Master Race did when building the Model O. The Model O shape is nearly identical to the FK1, which are both symmetrical down the center with a low profile hump. The main difference is that the FK1 is ambidextrous with side mouse buttons on both the left and right sides. The Glorious Model O is right-handed only. In fact, if you look at the trace over with the FK1 and the Model O, they're nearly identical except for the tips of the mouse button where your fingers will hardly ever be. So if you use the FK1, you're going to feel right at home. For those of you not familiar with the FK1, then the measurements top to bottom is 61 millimeters, 59 millimeters at the center, and then 66 millimeters at the bottom. The hump reaches a max of 35.5 millimeters, and the entire mouse is about 128 millimeters long. Another notable feature, and probably the most eye-catching one, is the honeycomb drills on the top and bottom of the mouse, but you won't find it on the sides. The sides are completely solid, unlike the Air 58. I'm guessing there was some kind of trade-off between how thin the sidewalls could be and whether they were solid or had the holes in them. And I'm not sure whether the pros of having a solid thinner wall outweighed the pros of having a thicker but drilled wall, and whether that is stability or weight, I guess we'll never know. And lastly, the finish. You can either choose a matte or glossy model. Matte is going to feel like your standard plastic mouse, while glossy is a coat of finish that is going to feel a little more sticky. The point of glossy is that if your hands sweat a little more than usual, then the gloss will act as a natural adhesive. And if you pick the glossy model, I hope you really like glossy because it feels like they just added on 2 or 3 more coats than they needed to. Although that's probably for the best because there's no filter between the RGB light and your hand. And I feel like that's why my hand sweats a lot more using this mouse than any other mouse. And it got so bad I had to buy a USB desk fan just to keep my hand cool while using this. Although that's not really the mouse's fault, that's my fault for picking glossy instead of matte. The mouse weighs 72 grams with the cable. And speaking of the cable, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's just so big, it struggles to fit in my Kamid mouse bungee. And I bet if you have any mouse bungee other than the Glorious one, you're going to have a hard time fitting it too. And speaking of the cord, look at this label and how just obscenely big it is. I know this isn't an issue, but look at the Zowie S2. I know this isn't a big deal, but look at the Divina S2 and how small their end label is compared to the Glorious, and they all have the same information. I just don't see why there's this obscenely large tag at the end of it. I forgot to close out the Word document, didn't I? Onto my favorite mouse nitpick, the switches. I prefer much tougher clicks, like I said in my Final Mouse video, so I was a little disappointed whenever I saw that the Model O came with Omron switches, just like with Zowie mice. But whenever I was at DreamHack and I was able to talk to someone with Zowie from their sales department, they said that they were supposed to use Huano for their Zowie mice, but they went with Omron because Huano switches are a pain to work with and bolt. The tolerances were just a little too different and they weren't so consistent. So if that was the case, then fine, I understand. I'm just not happy about it. So if there's a way to replace switches on mice, I'm definitely going to be replacing these Omrons with Huanos, but they're serviceable. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Good job. C+. Speaking of the mouse buttons, now might be the best time to talk about the biggest defect in the Model O. See, whenever you build a mouse, there's 2 shell designs you can go for. You can go for the split or the solid piece. Whenever you have a split mouse design, you run the risk of the mouse buttons feeling disconnected and kind of loose, and that's what happened with the Model O. Look at how much warp that this left mouse button has. And this isn't me bending the plastic. This is just the natural play it has. And it's so bad that a lot of people ended up having to RMA their mice. Thankfully, mine's not that bad and I don't even notice it when playing games, but I feel like this is the biggest issue they need to address in their next iteration of this mouse. The side mouse buttons are just like the regular mouse buttons when they click in. They just feel okay because they use the same switches. As for the shape of the side mouse buttons, I would have preferred a larger but flatter shape of the side mouse buttons like you see in the Air 58 or the Divina S2, as opposed to this thin and higher profile shape, but overall, it's fine, feels okay. It could definitely be improved, and I hope it does in their next Model O. One thing that is a definitive upgrade from the Air 58 is the mouse wheel. Its ridges are deep, so your finger gets a nice grip when scrolling, and it emphasizes each step of the scroll. It just feels fantastic. The Model O uses a 3360 sensor, which is the older brother of the very popular 3310 sensor. This sensor is 2 years old. You're going to find it in most top-of-the-line mice, so there's really not much to say. There really isn't much to say here. It's just a 3360. Good job picking the better sensor. Originally, I wasn't going to talk about the Model O software, but there might be some of you interested in what it all comes with. Just like every other peripheral software out there, you can change all the mouse buttons. You can change the RGB. Unlike other RGB mice, there aren't RGB zones. You have to pick from a few presets like wave, solid, breathing, and a few standard ones like that. Maybe in future updates we could see a bit more creativity, but it's fine for now. There's also a few advanced features like liftoff distance. You can adjust that between 1 to 3 millimeters. You can adjust the polling rate from 125, 250, 500, and 1000 hertz. And you could even adjust the double tap frequency. If you have a tendency to double click your mouse, you can adjust the tolerance to when the switch activates for the next time it's clicked. That's a pretty nice advanced feature, but overall in the software, it's all your essential basic stuff, so it's more than okay. Ever since I first got this mouse in the mail, up to today and far beyond, I have used it every day for every game, every computer session. I even bring it into work just so I could keep using it. At only $50, and unlike Phonomouse where they're actually going to keep it in stock, this gets a glowing recommendation from me. There are a few small nitpicks I have that can easily be fixed. I think that all the problems with this mouse just come from inexperience. This is PC Gaming Race's first mouse. So I believe that they've learned from this, and hopefully they release a second series where all of this will be improved. And whenever they do, I'm going to be the first in line to buy one. So thank you guys for watching. If you have anything you want me to look at, please let me know. Please check the pinned comment for any corrections or updates with this mouse, and I hope to see you in the next video.